Okay, so it has been way too long since I've actually done one of these, but I'm sort of back now for guitar tutorials and gaming stuff too. But I'm still gonna try to take it just kind of whenever I want to do it, basically. So I don't know how often I'm gonna be doing them, but I am actually gonna be doing them now. But anyway, all that aside, we are going to be doing my acoustic version of Festivalbini by TotorRo, as you've probably read from the name. Um, I'm basically just doing this because it's going to be an easy thing that I don't really have to learn or anything like that. And I've already done the normal version, which is fairly close to my acoustic version. So I'm basically going to be able to do this fairly quickly. And yeah, so let's get started then. So for the first part here, the intro, what you do is you hold the 5th fret with your pinky. And also I should mention that it's tuned to drop D, so standard tuning, except the low E string is down by 2/2 steps. Basically just hold the 7 and then tune the low E down to where they match, just like that. Anyway, so you hold 5th fret on the 6th string with your pinky, and you hold the 3rd fret on the 2nd string with your middle finger, and the 2nd fret on the 3rd string with your index finger. It kind of looks kind of wonky right here. I don't know, holding it is a little bit more weird feeling than just kind of doing it. But anyway, so you hold that, and you play the 6th string, thumb, and my hand's kind of blocked here from my mic, but you play it with your thumb, and then I use my index and my ring finger to get the 2nd and 3rd strings there. Then you do it again. And then instead of your pinky on the 5th of the 6th string, you use your ring finger on the 4th of the 6th string. And then you play the 2nd and 3rd strings again. And then you go back to the 5th and the 2nd and 3rd strings again. So that's... Then you do the 5th string, or the 5th fret, and then the 4th fret, with the 2nd and 3rd strings in between again. For this whole part, you're basically just changing where you're holding the 6th string, and then you just do the 2nd and 3rd strings right after. So 5th, 4th, and then you play the 6th string open, and then the 2nd and 3rd strings. And then right here, you can move your the whole position to where you're using the ring and middle finger instead for these two. But I usually just prefer to keep them there, and instead bar with the 1st finger to also hold down the 2nd string on the 2nd fret on the 6th string. But you're still holding the 2nd fret on the 3rd string with your index. But anyway, 6th string, and then the 2nd and 3rd, and then you get the 4th fret, and then 2nd and 3rd again. So all together, just slowly, that's what you do is you repeat that 3 times. Usually when I'm just playing on my own, I only do it twice because it's I don't really like too much repetition when I play stuff, and this is an intro, so it's really simple, so it's not crazy fun to play, even though it sounds nice. So I usually just repeat it twice instead, or repeat it once to make it playing twice. But if you want to follow my tutorial or my cover of the song and follow what's closest to the actual song, then you'd play it for a total of 3 times. And then that'll take you into the second part. I'll go ahead and play the intro with all the repetitions to make 3 total playthroughs real quick, if that makes any sense. Also, I should mention that normally I use a pick, and I'll use, for this part I use a pick for the 6th string, and then I'll actually use my middle and my ring finger for the 2nd and 3rd strings. Sometimes if I'm too lazy, I'll just go without the pick and do what I showed you earlier. But either way works. I just find using a pick and the other 3 fingers a little bit easier sometimes. So for the second part, it's really just a mashup of Guitar 1 and Guitar 2, except Guitar 2 is played lower, so then it could actually play both parts at the same time. But you're basically just doing the same little bass, low 3 strings part from Guitar 1. So that's you bar the 5th fret on the 6th, 5th, and 6th, 5th, and 4th strings. I can count and play those. And then you use your ring and pinky finger to hold the 7th fret on the 2nd and 3rd strings, and then you start strumming those after you give like one beat or something from the 5th strings. So that's. I'm not gonna get too far into the strumming pattern. I should have the tabs, like, I don't know, maybe up here or something like that, showing. You could probably figure it out from the distance, I suppose, from the from each number or something. I think when I made the tabs, I kind of took into account the strumming pattern then, but it's kind of weird to just do it and try to actually like count it out just from words and things like that. I find it easier to just kind of listen to the song too, so that should probably help. But it'd be taking too much time to actually have me explain it. I'm probably taking too much time just explaining that I'm not going to explain it. So anyway, you play that, and then you do it again, but only for half that time of what you did just then. And then instead of playing the 5th, barring all those on the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, you move that down to the 4th. And it's a little bit of a stretch, especially if you're holding the 7th frets still. That's what you gotta do. So. And again, that's only for that shortened amount of time. And then you go back up to the 5th fret and do the same thing. Well, actually, you basically just repeat everything that I showed you from this part so far. So that's and then from there, you play the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings open, and what you're strumming this time after that is the 3rd on the 2nd string and the 2nd on the 3rd string. So that's. And then you just bar the 2nd fret to play the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, 2nd fret, and then you start strumming the 2nd on the 3rd and the 3rd on the 2nd again. Again for a shortened time. And then this one's a little tricky because I'm not even sure if I fully bar it to get all of those three strings, the sixth, fifth, and fourth. Most of the times I'm probably only getting the fifth and sixth strings. But you have to try to bar with their ring finger the fourth frets on the sixth, fifth, and fourth strings. But you're also still strumming the second fret on the third string and the third on the second. So it's pretty difficult to not hit that third string with your ring finger. So if you want to just be safe, you could only bar the sixth and fifth and just kind of leave the fourth to be a dead note or whatever. Or you can play all three and then just kind of let go of the fourth string, sort of. Whatever works, basically. Again, this is just like my own acoustic version, so it's pretty loosey-goosey the way I play it. So from there, what you do is you repeat it. Everything that I showed you just in this second part. But once you get towards the last part, it changes a slight bit. I'll go ahead and play up to that part, so then you can kind of see exactly where it changes. So what you do there is you basically just don't play the that strumming bit in between each of those lower bass notes from guitar 1 of the normal song. So you just play guitar 1 basically. So open, and then second, fourth, and then from here I find it easiest to just use my pinky instead of barring with the index finger, which has more strength, because you gotta kind of switch the bar quickly. So you bar the fifth with their pinky if you can, and then the fourth with their ring finger, and then the second with their index. And you do that fairly quickly, so. And then that takes you into the third part. But I'll go ahead and play this slowly real quick with the repeat and everything. I also kind of like to add little percussive knocks on the guitar in between when you're just playing those low ones. Because there's drums in the song that kind of do their own thing right there. Kind of fills in the empty space. And I don't know, I kind of like to keep that in, even though it's an acoustic song. But yeah. So for this next part, part 3, because that's how counting works. You bar the 5th fret on the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, and you also play the. This is basically the beginning chord for the second part, but you're strumming the whole thing. So 5th, 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 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, and the 7th and 7th on the 3rd and 2nd strings. And you're strumming that a little bit. And then this formation, it's kind of like moving up 2 frets and then switching your hands around, if that makes sense. You're basically using your ring and pinky on the 7th of the 9th of the 6th and 5th strings. And that bar is below them now, instead of on top, which is the 7th on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. Again, tabs are probably going to make this make way more sense than just me explaining it through my voice. But yeah, that's why I add them in, because I don't explain things very well all the time. Anyway, you storm that a bit. Then you go way down to this is kind of a weird chord, sort of, compared to everything else. It's a second on the 6th, second on the 5th, and then a dead note for the 4th, and then second on the 3rd. And I think sometimes yeah, you could actually leave that 4th open, which gives it a little bit of a more open sound. I honestly don't know. It's been so long, I don't know which one I actually did in the acoustic version. So just whichever one you like better, I suppose. Sometimes I probably actually just switch it without really thinking about it. But anyway, you storm that for a little bit. And then you bar the the 2nd on the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, and you hold with the ring finger the 4th on the 3rd string. And then just before, I guess, that beat is down, or measure, or whatever you'd call that little time in between each note, just before that ends, you go up 2 frets to barring the 4th and holding the 6th with the ring finger, and then you slide that up 1. So that's, I did that a bit slower actually. So that section of chords for this part goes like this. You also want to, after that slide, you want to end that note quickly, because there is, at least in the actual song, there's a little bit of just empty space with no music being played. It's like, and then it just stops for a split second. But then, once that emptiness is over, you play that same chord again, go on to that 2nd chord, the 3rd chord again, and then from here you just play each of these once, and they are also short notes. So bar the 2nd for the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, and hold the 3rd on the 3rd string, or sorry, the 4th on the 3rd string. Move up 2 frets to the 4th and 6th. Move up 1 fret to barring the 5th and holding the 7th. Move up 2 more frets to barring the 7th and holding the 9th. And then you go back down to holding or barring the 2nd and holding the 4th. And like I said, each of these notes are shortened, so you let go not too long after playing them, and you only play them once, so. Actually, that last one is held out a little bit. I'm somewhat remembering each little detail as I'm doing this tutorial, because like I said, it's been a long time since I even really got into this song, like the acoustic version that I made up. So I'm kind of remembering how I did it as I'm doing this tutorial, if that makes sense. It's probably not too professional, but hey, it's not me doing an actual song, so I'm not too worried about it, and I'm just getting back into this, so yeah. If there's anything that you need clarified a bit further, then you could go ahead and put that in the comments. I usually try to look at them fairly quickly, so yeah. Anyway, what you do after that is you repeat everything. So yeah, that's that's the end of part 3. I'll go ahead and play that slowly real quick for you. So next is part 4. What you do is, I use this chord a lot, kind of, borrowing the 5th frets and holding the 7th on the 2nd and 3rd strings. But the slight difference here is you're not just holding the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings with your bar. You're also now getting the 1st string on the 5th fret with their index finger bar. So you're actually ringing that one out. And what you're doing is you're just simply down strumming each beat with this chord for a little bit. And then from here, you have the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings open, 2nd fret, 3rd string with your index, 3rd fret, 2nd string with your middle, and 5th fret, 1st string with your pinky. And what you're doing here is, yeah, sorry, I had to count out the beats. What you're doing is, you're strumming that whole thing, and you're basically strumming the whole thing at the same tempo as what you were strumming that last chord. You're doing the same thing, but you're also strumming the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings in between, and those ones will actually move around a little bit, as I'll show you in a second. But for now, you're just you're basically doing this. All those ones in between are just the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings again. So after you've done that for 3 beats, I think? Yeah, 3 beats. On the 4th, you move up 2 frets, so that's 4th on the 3rd, 5th on the 2nd, and 7th on the 1st. And you only do that for 1 beat. And then you move up 2 frets again to the 6th on the 3rd, 7th on the 2nd, and 9th on the 1st. And you do that for 2 beats. And then you go back down to that 1st chord. Well, not the 1st chord. Basically the 2nd on the 3rd, 3rd on the 2nd, and 5th on the 1st. And you do that for 1 beat again. So that little bit is... Then you go back to strumming the 1st chord for this part, which is completely barred 5th, and then the 2 7ths on the 2nd and 3rd strings. And then you basically do the same thing, but there's a little bit added onto this. So from there, you move up to the 7th on the 3rd string, 8th on the 2nd string, and 10th on the 1st string. You do that for 3 counts, and then you go up to the 9th on the 3rd, 10th on the 2nd, and 12th on the 1st. Do that for 1 count. And then you move up 2 frets again to the 11th on the 3rd, 12th on the 2nd, and 14th on the 1st. And then you go back down to 6th on the 3rd, 7th on the 2nd, and 9th on the 1st. Do that for 2 counts. Then from there, what you do is you play a thumb chord, which is fairly difficult if you're new to thumb chords because you have to get 2 of them, 2 strings with your thumb. But those two strings are the fifth on the sixth and fifth strings. And then you leave the fourth open, or it can be denoted, either or. Then you use your ring finger to hold the seventh on the third. You denote the second with your ring finger, and then you hold the seventh on the first string with your pinky. So that whole added on bit goes like this. So I'll go ahead and play the actual, like, more difficult strumming bits, I suppose, because like half of this part is just strumming this downward. Whoops, strumming this downward, which apparently I can't do all the time. But I'll go ahead and play everything from this chord and on. So for part 5, what you do is you hold the 9th fret on the 6th and 5th strings with your index finger, and your pinky holds the 12th on the 5th string, or sorry, the 12th on the 4th, and then your ring finger will hold the 11th on the 3rd string. You strum that a little bit. Again, the strumming pattern would be somewhere here probably. And then you start barring the 7th on the 6th and 5th strings, the 11th on the 4th, and the, what is that, the 9th on the 3rd with their pinky and ring finger, those last two. So and then you kind of break the formation this time. You hold the 12th of the 6th and 5th strings with your index, and then your ring finger will hold the 14th on the 4th string, and your pinky will hold the 14th of the 3rd. So those last three chords are. Then you keep that same formation, except you go all the way down to the 2nd fret with that bar, so second on the 6th and 5th strings, ring finger on the 4th of the 4th, and pinky on the 4th of the 3rd. And then you bar the 4th on those two strings. Your pinky holds the 7th on the 4th, and your ring finger will hold the 6th on the 3rd. And then you bar the 5th of the 6th and 5th strings. Your ring finger will hold the 7th of the 4th, and your pinky will hold the 7th of the 3rd. And then you just slide that all the way up back to barring the 12th on the 6th and 5th strings, and then holding the 14th on the 4th and 13th, or the 4th and 3rd strings. There's not 13 strings. So I'll go ahead and play that little bit of this part for you, real quick. Then you sort of do the same thing. I'll go ahead and play up to the part where it changes. That's where it changes. Instead of continuing that strumming pattern, you just play it once and you make that a short note, so you pull off your hand from the frets a little bit. And then you just, you wait a second, and then you play that next chord just once, and you let that one ring out. So that's... You could also add in the normal song, they kind of do a whole bunch of dead notes right there. Maybe all of the strings, but I haven't actually counted. But I usually add that into the acoustic version anyway, so. And then you do what would normally have came after that part. And then you repeat the first chunk, basically, if that last part hadn't changed. Again, what I mean will be showing right here. And then from here it's slightly changed again, but it starts off kind of the same. And then from here, you basically just play this chord a few times, just downstrummed. I think they might be. Yeah, they are shortened, so. You just play it 4 times, and then you just play open for the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings. So. Then that'll take you into the next part, but I will play this part slowly, real quick, with all the repeats and all. So pretty much all of part 6 is the exact same thing as the normal song. I'll go ahead and explain it here still, but if you actually looked into how I play the normal song, then you could just play essentially that. The last couple seconds is different because they're actual chords here. But anyway, what you do is you play 6th fret on the 3rd string. And then you move. Do you slide? No. You just move up to the 11th fret. I have my tabs kind of pulled up on the side here. But you play the 11th after that, still on the same string. And then you play the 7th. Then you play the 12th. And then the 14th. So that's. I kind of slide in between, but you don't really have to do that. I just like to do that to kind of keep everything tied together well. But then you play the 6th again, then the 11th, then the 7th, and then right here you play the. What you want to do is somehow get it to where you're holding it with one of your fingers that are more on the right side. So then you can actually reach this 3rd fret on the 2nd string. Usually I'll just use my index finger for that last note. But then when I slide back down to the 7th, I'll switch to my ring finger. Then you get that 3rd on the 2nd string. And then you play the 7th again on the 3rd. So that little bit, just so you could kind of understand a bit better, goes like this. Then you play the 12th on the 3rd string, and then the 14th. And then right here it changes a little bit more drastically. You play the 5th on the 2nd string. All of this will be 2nd string for a second. You do some tremolo picking here. And then the 7th fret on the 2nd string. Then the 8th. then the 10th, 12th, and then the 14th. And then you repeat that tremolo bit. And then from here, you're still doing the same thing with your index finger. You're just playing 5th, 7th, 8th, 10th, 12th, and 14th on the 2nd string, but you add the 3rd string with your middle finger. And what that'll be doing is when you're playing the 5th with your middle finger, you're playing the 6th on the 3rd string. And then when you move up to the 7th with your index, you're also playing the 7th with your middle. Then you move up to the 8th with your index, and 9th with your middle finger on the 3rd string still. And then you just slide those two up, so then the index is playing the 10th, middle finger is playing the 11th. And then they're both playing the 12th. And then they're both playing the 14th. So that little bit is... And then you do the same thing, but it changes towards the end of that little bit. From here, it actually goes back down. It's still using the same, I guess, chords, but I'll still explain them. But it's going on the way down now. So that's 10th on the 2nd and 11th on the 3rd. Then 8th and 9th on the 2nd and the 3rd strings. 6th on the 2nd and 7th on the 3rd. Oops, sorry, that's 7th on the 2nd and 7th on the 3rd. 5th on the 2nd and 6th on the 3rd. Then 3rd on the 2nd and 4th on the 3rd. And then you just strum this once, but it's 2nd on the 2nd and 2nd on the 3rd. So that might have been a little bit confusing, but I'll go ahead and play that last bit slowly. It's at this point that it's a little bit different from the actual song. What you do is you bar the 6th and 5th strings on the 9th fret. You use your pinky for the 12th on the 4th string, and your ring finger for the 11th on the 3rd string. You strum that for a bit like that, and then you go down to barring the 7th of the 6th and 5th strings. Pinky on the 11th of the 4th string, and ring finger on the 9th of the 3rd string. And you just strum that once. And then from there, I just bar this. I'll bar the 7th on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings to make it easier on myself. But you play the 3rd string, and then the 4th string, and then the 2nd, and then the 3rd string. And then for the final chord, normally, in the normal song, you just play the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings open. But I kind of like to add the 2nd on the 3rd string and the 3rd on the 2nd string to make it a little bit more open sounding, so gives it a little bit more of an acoustic-y feel. I'll go ahead and do that last 2 seconds slowly for you. So yeah, that's the end of my acoustic version of Festivalbini by TotorRo. If you guys liked it, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe and do all that good stuff. If you want to see some more stuff that I'm probably going to do, or at least going to try to do in the future. Thank you for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time.